Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Reciprocal tariffs announced by the US President. Parliamentary Committee on Welfare of Other Backward Classes submitted its report to 18th Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha passes the Coastal Shipping Bill 2024. Supreme Court asks police force in all states to adhere to prescribed norms while making arrest. Governance in democracy can only be by executive, not court, says Vice President. New World Order will be regional, agenda specific, says External Affairs Minister. A major development has come in from the United States that could have global trade implications. The President of the US has announced a new set of reciprocal tariffs targeting over 180 countries and economies. These new tariffs include a 10% baseline and are part of a larger strategy to address trade imbalances. Now, let's look at what this means specifically for India. The announcement includes a 26% reciprocal tariff on India, which is notably half the rate that India currently imposes on US imports. And India is not alone. Similar tariffs have been imposed on other major economies, like China at 34%, Japan at 24%, and the European Union at 20%. So what is driving this move? The primary reasons cited are reindustrialization and retaliation against unfair trade practices. This marks a clear shift, part of the broader backlash against hyperglobalization and the growing wave of economic nationalism. Economic nationalism is visible in manufacturing onshoring policies, Make America Wealthy Again promises, etc. Now let's talk about it. Economic nationalism. It is an economic ideology that favors domestic control of the economy, labor, and capital formation. It takes two major forms. First, developmentalism, where industrial policy is used to shape national development goals. A good example would be India's planned economic model post-independence. Second, mercantilism or isolationism, which seeks to boost national prosperity and power through restrictive trade practices like the America First policy of the recent US administration. Now, let's talk about an important update from the Parliament. The Parliamentary Committee on Welfare of Other Backward Classes or OBCs has submitted its report to the 18th Lok Sabha. The report focuses on a key issue: how the creamy layer status among OBCs is determined and comes with significant recommendations. But before we get into what the committee observed and recommended, let's quickly revisit what the creamy layer means. The concept of creamy layer, referring to the most socio-economically advanced members among OBCs, arose from the landmark Indira Sahni case back in 1992. In that case, the Supreme Court upheld 27% OBC reservation in civil posts, but with a condition: the exclusion of the creamy layer. Following this judgment, the Ram Nandan Prasad Committee was constituted. It laid down two main criteria for identifying creamy layer. First, individuals whose parents are or were in certain categories of government services, and second, those earning above a threshold income. That threshold income was last revised in 2017 to 8 lakh rupees. Now, coming back to the committee's report. It made some sharp observations about how the creamy layer criteria are being applied across the country. The committee noted that uniform yardsticks are not being followed when it comes to the income or wealth test in certain states. Moving forward, the committee has recommended that all states adopt a uniform formula for determining creamy layer status. And that's not all. Another key observation was that the current income limit of 8 lakh rupees is too low. According to the committee, this is depriving a large segment of the OBC population from availing reservation benefits. Hence, it has recommended that a substantially higher income limit be fixed after consulting with stakeholders.
In a key move aimed at transforming coastal trade in the country, the Lok Sabha has passed the Coastal Shipping Bill 2024. This legislation brings in a dedicated legal framework specifically for coastal trade and introduces regulation for all types of vessels, ranging from ships and boats to sailing vessels and even mobile offshore drilling units. Let's break down the key provisions of the bill. To begin with, under the new law, Indian vessels will no longer require a trading license for coasting trade. However, foreign vessels will still need to obtain a license issued by the Director General of Shipping or DGS. Just to clarify, coasting trade refers to the transport of goods or passengers by sea from one Indian port or location to another. Moving ahead, the bill mandates the creation of a national coastal and inland shipping strategic plan. This plan will be revised biennially or every 2 years. Alongside this, a national database for coastal shipping will also be developed to support decision making and operations. Another important provision is the authority granted to the DGS. The Director General of Shipping will now have the power to seek information, issue directions, and ensure compliance across the sector. And in addition to that, the central government has been empowered to provide necessary exemptions and maintain regulatory oversight. This is aimed at ensuring that coastal shipping operations remain streamlined and efficient. Now, coming to the significance of this legislation. First, it's expected to help decongest India's overburdened road and rail networks by boosting the use of inland waterways and revitalizing riverine economies. Second, the bill is a strategic step towards reducing our reliance on foreign vessels for critical areas by developing a coastal fleet owned and operated by Indian entities. And finally, it aims to bring down logistics costs, promote environmentally friendly modes of transport or green transport, and contribute to the regional development of India's coastal areas. In summary, the Coastal Shipping Bill 2024 is a crucial step toward modernizing India's maritime trade infrastructure.
Now, a significant development from the Supreme Court of India that directly impacts law enforcement procedures across the country. The Supreme Court has directed all state police forces to strictly adhere to prescribed norms while making arrests. This reminder comes in the light of its previous ruling in the case of Somnath versus State of Maharashtra 2023. In that case, the court reiterated the principles laid down in the landmark judgment of D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal 1997. Now, what exactly do these guidelines entail? Let's take a quick look. First, proper identification is essential. Officers making an arrest must wear clear identification badges and name tags indicating their designation. Second, a mandatory memo of arrest must be prepared. It should include the time and date of arrest and must be attested by at least one witness and countersigned by the person being arrested. Third, the authorities must inform a friend or relative of the arrested individual as soon as practicable. Next, if requested, the person being arrested should be medically examined at the time of arrest, and any injuries must be recorded in an inspection memo. Also, during detention, the arrestee must undergo a medical examination every 48 hours. And importantly, the arrestee has the right to meet their lawyer during interrogation. Moving ahead, let's now talk about the safeguards available to arrested persons. Constitutionally, Article 22 of the Indian Constitution provides essential protections to individuals who are arrested or detained by the authorities. Legally, Sections 330 and 331 of the IPC prescribe punishment for causing injury to extort confessions during custody. In addition, Section 196 of the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023 mandates a magisterial inquiry in cases of custodial deaths. And finally, other protections include the National Human Rights Commission guidelines of 1993 and international safeguards under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
Next, we turn our focus to a significant remark made by the Vice President of India, one that puts the spotlight back on a core tenet of democratic governance. Speaking on the principle of separation of power in a democracy, the Vice President emphasized that governance in a democracy can only be carried out by the executive, not the courts. He stated that it is the executive which remains accountable to Parliament and, more importantly, to the people through elections, not the judiciary. Now, let's take a closer look at what this idea of separation of power really means. The concept is closely associated with the French philosopher Montesquieu. It is a foundational element in governance meant to prevent the concentration of power in a single hand or body. This is achieved by dividing government responsibilities across three distinct branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. Moving on to its significance in a democracy, separation of power plays a key role in preventing the abuse of authority. By dividing power among different centers, it safeguards citizens from potential tyranny. For example, Article 50 of the Indian Constitution clearly demarcates the separation between the judiciary and the executive. Another critical aspect is that it ensures a robust system of checks and balances. This limits the chances of any branch overreaching its authority and promotes accountability. A landmark case that underlines this is the Keshavananda Bharati case, where the Supreme Court curtailed the Parliament's power to amend the Constitution by invoking the Basic Structure Doctrine. It also upholds the rule of law and individual liberty. A good example is the role of an independent judiciary, which interprets laws in a fair and unbiased manner, ensuring equal treatment for all citizens. Now, let's turn our attention to how this principle plays out in India. Unlike the United States, where a strict separation exists under the presidential system, India follows a more flexible model that allows functional overlap. For instance, in India's parliamentary system, the executive is drawn directly from the legislature. Despite this overlap, India ensures independent functioning of its institutions. Under Articles 122 and 212, courts are expressly prohibited from inquiring into the proceedings of parliament or state legislatures. And finally, there's an element of pragmatic interdependence. A case in point, the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court and High Courts is done by the President, demonstrating coordination between the branches. In a world that's rapidly shifting its power structures, the new global order will be regional and agenda-specific. This was the key message from the External Affairs Minister while addressing a preparatory meeting for the upcoming BIMSTEC summit. The minister emphasized that regional groupings like BIMSTEC should be seen with a more ambitious perspective, especially as the world transitions from traditional multilateralism to minilateralism. Minilaterals are informal and targeted groupings with fewer states that usually consist of 3 or 4 and focus on addressing a specific threat, security concern, or contingency. These alliances share a common goal and aim to resolve issues within a defined time frame. Examples include I2U2, BRICS, and Quad. Now, why are these agenda-specific minilaterals on the rise? One major reason is the limitations of traditional multilateral institutions like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization or WTO, which often struggle to achieve consensus among a diverse group of members. With fewer states involved, minilaterals enable faster decision-making and implementation. A prime example is the Quad, which quickly coordinated vaccine distribution efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, we have great power rivalries. Heightened tensions have paralyzed major international frameworks. The WTO's dispute settlement system, for instance, remains dysfunctional due to geopolitical tensions. As a response, regional free trade agreements like RCEP are being signed between smaller numbers of countries. Additionally, global challenges such as climate change and cybersecurity are not being addressed effectively on a priority basis through traditional multilateral setups. In contrast, agenda-specific coalitions like the International Solar Alliance allow for specialized expertise and resources to be pooled effectively. But while minilateralism offers many advantages, it does come with challenges. For one, small groups make trust building and informal cooperation easier. But agendas may stall due to government changes. A case in point, the Quad collapsed in 2007 after the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe resigned. Another challenge is lack of inclusivity. For example, some ASEAN nations have expressed concerns about being sidelined by groupings like AUKUS, threatening regional cohesion. And then there's the issue of limited resources. Smaller coalitions may lack the collective capacity to tackle large-scale global challenges like climate change or pandemics due to lack of funds and technological cooperation. So what's the way forward? Along with building agenda-specific partnerships with various countries at mini-lateral level, India should continue to push for reforms in the multilateral organizations such as UNSC and WTO to safeguard universal rules-based global order. In today's Place in News, we turn our focus to Thailand with its capital Bangkok. Recently, India and Thailand have taken their diplomatic ties to the next level by upgrading their relationship to a strategic partnership. In a symbolic gesture, the Thai government has also released an eye stamp featuring Ramakya, the Thai version of the Ramayana, depicted through mural paintings. Let's take a quick look at Thailand's key features. Politically, the country is located in Southeast Asia and is an active member of ASEAN and BIMSTEC. It shares land borders with Myanmar to the northwest, Cambodia to the east, Laos to the northeast, and Malaysia to the south. On the maritime front, it is bordered by the Gulf of Thailand in the south and the Andaman Sea in the west. Geographically, Thailand is home to major rivers like the Mekong and Chao Phraya and experiences a tropical monsoon climate. Its rich natural resources include tin, rubber, natural gas, tungsten, tantalum, and timber.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. On April 3rd, a record was set in the Lok Sabha as 202 MPs spoke during a 5-hour-long zero hour. Zero hour is the period immediately following question hour and the laying of papers, and it takes place before any listed business is taken up. It usually begins around 12 noon, which is why it is termed as zero hour. India has urged BRICS nation to unite in support of the Baku to Bilim roadmap, which aims to mobilize $1.3 trillion in climate finance annually by 2035 to support nationally determined contributions. The UNFCCC COP29 held in Baku, Azerbaijan, agreed on a new global climate finance goal, as well as a framework for raising ambition in the lead-up to COP30, which will take place in Belém, Brazil. India's seaweed farming sector, currently valued at 200 crore rupees, is projected to expand to 3,277 crore rupees over the next decade. Seaweed is a nutrient-rich marine plant that grows in oceans and seas. It contains 54 trace elements and essential nutrients, which are known to help fight diseases such as cancer, diabetes, arthritis, etc. A new study has uncovered the mysteries of how the venom of the Pope's pit viper works. This research could help establish a stronger foundation for understanding venom toxicity, enabling pharmaceutical advancements and enhanced anti-venom compositions. The study becomes important as India aims to decrease snake bite mortality by 50% by 2030. The Union Ministry of Women and Child Development has announced that all Anganwadi centers across India are now registered on the Poshan Tracker application. The Poshan Tracker is a mobile-based application that enables real-time tracking of attendance, growth monitoring, and nutrition services while replacing physical records with auto-generated monthly reports. The National Center for Polar and Oceans Research, or NCPOR, is commemorating its 25th Foundation Day. Established in 1998 as an autonomous research and development institution under the Government of India, NCPOR is located in Goa. The Varangal Chapata chili, also known as the tomato chili from Telangana, has been granted the Geographical Indication or GI tag. This chili is bright red in color and has a round shape resembling a tomato. It is less spicy but offers an extensive flavor due to its capsicum oleoresin properties. The Prime Minister of Thailand has gifted a copy of Tipitaka in the Pali language to the Indian Prime Minister during his ongoing visit. The Tipitaka is a collection of 3 sets or baskets of Buddhist texts, primarily written in Pali, and forms the foundation of Theravada Buddhism. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.